Welcome to Public Safety Talk Radio, the podcast for all of our heroes in public safety, including law enforcement professionals, firefighters, EMTs, corrections officers, healthcare workers, and more. The show is produced by the POCUA and is founded upon its Soundness Initiative. This episode is sponsored by the Finest Service Organization, a provider of line-of-duty death loan protection through many of our POCUA institutions. I am Ken Bader, your host for Public Safety Talk Radio, and I have another intriguing guest. It's almost like we have a series going on new, awesome first responder training facilities that are popping up around the country. And we're going to talk about another one today with my awesome guest, Allie Nagolian, Alex Nagolian, Alexandra Nagolian, however you want to put it. But just Allie to her friend, she's allowed me to call her Allie. She has been the executive director of the Nassau County Police Department Foundation for over a decade, but she still looks like she's 19, so that's very awesome. Doing great things for them. And I actually just found this out on LinkedIn. This is awesome. You used to be the deputy director of press advance for the Rudy Giuliani Presidential Committee. If he had become president, I was a big supporter of him. If he had become president, maybe we wouldn't be in this crap today. Alex, do we blame you for that?
I know that was a very short-lived presidential campaign, unfortunately. So I hope it's not my fault. But,
yeah, no, it definitely isn't your fault. But Allie, welcome to the show. It's great to have you.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Yep, we're gonna have a lot of fun. I had the honor of meeting Allie and a number of great executive directors at the Public Safety Foundation Summit in Las Vegas earlier this year. So many of them, have great stories to tell, and Allie certainly does. And you did an excellent presentation giving us a great insight into the new training facility that you built in Nassau County in New York. And we just had the chance to visit Captain Rader at the new training facility in Vegas. I haven't had a chance to go to New York yet to see yours, but it looks great, probably even better than theirs in Las Vegas on pictures. So yeah, well, I'll hop a plane tomorrow. So tell us more about that and the journey to get that done.
Oh, well, it was quite a journey. It was a decade of my life, literally, but worth every moment. So that was essentially why I was hired by this. Our foundation was created really to build this facility. Honestly, as all the other foundations that exist, there were many other initiatives that we started and completed while we were on this journey. Capital projects, other smaller capital projects, equipment, community programs, but all along our main focus was to get this building done. The Nassau County Police Department, now the 12th, usually fluctuates between the 12th and 13th largest department in the country. We never had our own training facility. Historically, in the 98-year history of the department, cops were shuttled from elementary schools to trailers at a jail that were condemned for prisoner use, but we used that for our academy for a very, very long time. And it's just the morale of coming into one of the greatest departments in the country, certainly one of the most well-paid departments in the country, and then you have your cops training at a prison in trailers. You couldn't do baton training because you would hit the roof. So our foundation was created because at the time, Commissioner Larry Mulvey said, we really need a proper place to train. And I know that we can't rely on Nassau County budget to provide us with all of the funding to do so. So, we had, at the time, they got some philanthropic individuals from the community together and basically created this foundation with the goal of, we are going to, build this facility. And I think at the time they thought it would be a much easier endeavor, but, raising, $50-60 million does not come that quickly. So it certainly took us a long period of time. And throughout that, we had different, sizes of the building. It went from being almost 200,000 square feet to where we are now, which is 90,000 square feet. We went on a tour of the county looking at every empty property, also buildings that we could maybe retrofit. And we ultimately came back to the original place, which was a empty lot on our community college campus, which is central in the county. We already did our emergency vehicle operations training at that site because it had an old runway where actually Charles Lindbergh took off on his flight. So a lot of history there. It was old Mitchell Field. And obviously the history with Nassau County and airplanes and aerospace. It was kind of neat that our training academy is built on that piece of land. So after going through this whirlwind of where should we build it, how big should it be, what can we afford, back in 2018, we finally were able to get the funding together, which was a mix of private funding on our end, which we did with purchasing and implementing all of the architectural designs, all the groundwork that needed to be done, environmental reviews, safety studies. We spent millions of dollars on those items, brought it to the county and said, we have the plans ready to go to build this facility. You know, can we move forward? And luckily the county was able to put together a little capital budget through capital bonding, and through the mix of private and public funds, we were able to break ground and the building was completed. We opened it up in this summer of last year while we were still doing little bits of construction because we had to get out of the old facility, which was an elementary school. And we are wrapping the project up as we speak. So we still aren't 100% complete. We still have some of the auditorium that needs to be finished, which we are working on right now, and then odds and ends of carpentry and basic, you know, touch-up work. But the building is fully operational. Like I said, we've been in there since June. We've had 2 academy classes that have gone through there, and we are actually swearing in another academy class of 60 individuals on Friday in there.
Nice. Nice. Well, what are you going to do with all those condemned prisons now if they're not being used?
I actually think they still are using them as it's a prison for something, not training, because our sheriff's department is in this new building as well. So it's been fantastic.
Well, you know, being ignorant myself, not ever having done your job, and definitely never having raised millions, without giving any names. Of course, you can if you want to give anybody some kudos or some press out there. But yeah, how does one go about, you know, getting, you know, $60 million? Is it mainly from, you know, large corporations that are supporting law enforcement? Is it from, you know, actors, actresses, you know, private investors that are doing things that are donating those types of millions? Where does that money come from, and how do you reach out to these people?
Well, to be fully transparent, we didn't raise a 60 million in total. So we've raised about 13 in the county through capital bonding, put in some of the money towards the construction. So it's a mixed bag of funding, but we did raise 13 million, and a lot of that was through mostly private individuals. You know, we are a small organization. I'm the only employee. And so all the fundraising and operational came from, you know, myself and our board. So we were lucky enough that we had some philanthropic individuals in Nassau County who wanted to support this project. And through their generosity and a little bit of corporate money as well, we were able to get the funds together. And we are continuously raising money right now for the building so that we can keep it up to meet the needs of the department as the department grows and as technology continues to evolve. So all of the naming opportunities that have been utilized, you know, for the fundraising of the building, that money goes back into the building. So the foundation will be making sure that the building, you know, continues to be a state-of-the-art facility and that no money comes from the taxpayers to operate it. Along with that, we're embarking on a phase 2, hopefully any day now, which is going to be a community training village. So if anyone's familiar with Quantico, Hogan's Alley, we are building just that behind the building as a phase 2. So it will be a training facility, but not just for police and law enforcement. It'll be a community training facility where we can bring our fire, our EMS, our hospital systems in, as well as members of the community to train about anything that could happen in this world, whether it's protest training, whether active shooter training, whether it's school, you know, obviously anything that would happen on the school grounds, domestic violence. We are going to utilize the college campus and our students at the college to work with our police to do real life training, being our actors, being our real life scenario. So no longer will be having our officers sitting in classrooms talking about what happens when you approach a home or a mosque or a temple. And if anyone knows Nassau County, we are a very diverse county. We're small in square footage, but we have 1.4 million people. And our officers have to be aware of many different cultures, what to do when you go to a synagogue, what to do when you go to a mosque. And so we can actually train our officers with people in the community in real life in this village. So part of the monies raised from the building will go into this village, and we have the plans ready to go. We are simply waiting on the county to put them out to bid, and we are hoping to break ground on that at the end of this year. So that will be really exciting and really kind of fulfill this complete training objective the department had over a decade ago, and they wanted to make sure that we had the best training in the country.
Now a word from one of the POCUA's proud business partners, OfficerPrivacy.com. OfficerPrivacy.com was founded by Pete James, a law enforcement professional with over 25 years of experience. Pete wanted to find a way to help law enforcement officers protect themselves and their families. So he formed a team to create a way to quickly identify and remove their information from certain sites. OfficerPrivacy.com is the result. This service is already offered through a select few of our POCUA organizations. As a listener of Public Safety Talk Radio, you can take advantage of a special offer from OfficerPrivacy.com. Go to OfficerPrivacy.com/POCUA, and when you sign up, you'll get 2 additional bonuses. In addition to removing your personal information from the top 30 people search sites, they will give you your first 2 months of monitoring free. This is a value of $39.98. In addition to that, you'll receive a cell phone privacy device, a $19.99 value. This prevents data from leaving your cell phone when you use public charging stations and is a must when traveling. So go to officerprivacy.com/POCUA today to take advantage of this offer and to protect your privacy. Organizations who are members of the POCUA and are interested in offering the service directly to their members, contact us at POCUA@btcinc.org. Yeah, if you're the only employee, who do you push around? Who do you delegate to?
Myself.
do you have conversations with yourself? Do you kind of yell at yourself, say, "Hey, get this done"?
Luckily the department has a lot of I work with members of the department who help us to move this along. So it's a joint effort between our architects, members of the department, our academy staff, to push this project along. We have a lot of, actually, which has been great, retired members of our department who have come back to help us with this. So one of the neat things about the facility, beyond being a training facility and our Intel Center, it's also a community center. So we have a 400-seat auditorium and a multi-purpose room where members of the community can come in and hold meetings. And we wanted to really showcase the department and its history. So we took our museum, which was once in the basement of headquarters where many people couldn't see it, and we put the museum in the new building. So you can walk in and see our old uniforms, our history of the building, our old motorcycles, we have old cars, and we've brought members of the department who are retired in to really curate the museum. So it really is full circle, everybody's hands on deck to make this facility happen. And it's been really the apple of the eye of the county, this place, and everybody in the community's come in. We've done movie nights for kids in the community. We just had a family day 2 weeks ago where we opened up the facility on a weekend, and all the different units were able to demonstrate their different, how they do things. We had over 1,000 people. We had a barbecue, ice cream trucks, and really bringing everybody in the community in to learn about our police department, all the great things they do. So it's been, just a wonderful place, not only for our members but for the community as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think, that's one aspect we haven't really talked about on this show. We've certainly touched on community policing and connecting with the community and so forth. But yeah, you have this great brand new facility, why not use it, from a community standpoint, so that they can not only learn about the police, but use, those new facilities. When you do the movie night for families, do you show like The Exorcist or Amityville Horror? Or
We showed Lion King first.
Lion King, yeah.
And that's our logo. So that made sense, the lion. But that was part of the sell. That's when we went to the county and said, listen, we cannot raise the entire funds to build this ourselves, because a lot of people give us money, but without it being guaranteed, it was always a little bit of is this actually going to happen? So we kind of went to the county and said, listen, you're spending X amount of money a year renting a facility. We can own this facility. It's going to be a community place. Can we use some taxpayer dollars and this bond to build this facility and make it a real true public-private partnership, and the community be able to use it? And we've done just that. So besides movie nights, having different community events there, we have our police athletic league and various youth athletic leagues use our huge warehouse. It's really a gymnasium, but it's enormous, and we have 2 full-size basketball courts in there, and there's still room for other activities. So at night we have youth programs from all over the county there, playing basketball, doing karate, baseball clinics. So every night there's community youth, and this is really located in the very center of the county, so it's easily accessible to all of our members, and especially some of our disadvantaged neighborhoods, which happen to be neighboring this facility. So we are able to bring them in, and they can use the gymnasium at nights, and on weekends, pretty much around the clock. It's busy in there with children. So when we talk about community partnerships, this building is the exemplary of what that is, almost 24/7.
Yeah, that's awesome. And having lived in Chicago for 40 years, having an indoor basketball court in months like December, January, and February, it makes a lot of sense.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, great story, especially on the community end. And one of the misnomers, and we discussed that at the last summit, is that people that are not stupid, just let's say naive and ignorant, and I'm naive and ignorant about a lot of things, think these foundations like yourself are supplying guns and weapons. And the fact is that even as a civilian, I've worked with enough police officers where they don't have any problems getting weapons. Where they really need things is they need things like vests and helmets and training centers. They need these other resources that are completely non-violent in order to support them to do their jobs. So hearing this does my heart really good, and I think this needs to get out there a little bit more. To that point, talk about how this new training facility is going to help policing in Nassau County. Maybe it's just simply better morale. Hey, we've got this great place. Hey, NFL, NFL teams have these great facilities and have full length fields to practice in, like they would in a stadium. And cops are being sent to a condemned prison. I mean, come on, guys. How is this gonna help policing, whether it's from a morale standpoint or better training? And so talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, first of all, of course, morale is always number one. But the one thing I will say, we're lucky in our department that they don't. The department doesn't come to the foundation for too much equipment that is necessary, such as vests. Where we really come in is on the pieces of community policing that money isn't in the budget for, and that's a lot of the community programs that the department runs to bring policing together. So we're lucky that we have more money to really expend on that kind of building those relationships, and then training, which is very important. As everybody knows now, police training is under a lot of scrutiny. So this facility really encompasses 21st century training. So it's, again, not just going into a classroom and learning how to be a police officer looking at a screen. We've created a crawl, walk, run method of training here where they do classroom work. They can go into the training warehouse and do a walk of what it is to do a car stop in a sterile environment. And then they can go into the training village and do an actual walk into an actual town in anywhere USA and be in your car and have to go to a call on 5 Lopez Drive, and you reach a residential home and there is a domestic going on, or you have a call that there's a burglary in progress at the pharmacy. So you're learning how to be a police officer in a real life environment with all of the environmental factors out there. And beyond that, the community aspect of it is that we're going to bring community members in to train together. So you're not just there with your instructors in the police department as well as your fellow recruits. You actually have members of the fire department show up at the scene, as well as ambulance medics, as well as real life actors, students, or people in the community playing their roles that they would play, being able to recreate or reenact an actual scenario that happened that we can see on a body cam, and then we can go back and train the officers real life again in those scenarios. So with training being so important these days, this is kind of the mecca of being able to train. And we envision that, not only our department will be using it, but the federal agencies that all exist in the New York City area, our partners in the NYPD and Suffolk, we can do joint training in real life scenarios here in the county with this facility, because other than Hogan's Alley, which is down in Virginia, there's really nothing close by. So it's easier to get everybody to New York and do these kinds of things. So it's really going to bring training to a whole nother level. And I think, judging by what's going on around the country with Las Vegas building something similar, and I know other departments are looking to do it, it's really kind of the next level of being able to train officers. So, we kind of were on the forefront of this 10, 12 years ago when the concept was envisioned. And think about what policing was like 12 years ago, what we've gone through in the past 5 years. What we envisioned this building to be 12 years ago has kind of adjusted a little bit, but it's been even more important and poignant now than it was then. Back then, we were really focused on post 9/11. How can we train our officers better in counterterrorism measures? And again, COVID kind of related training on how to respond and act with pandemic level healthcare crisis. I mean, the things we never thought about when we built this facility, obviously now we're kind of looking back and saying, well, if we could have done something a little different, we would have added this or done this, but good thing we're able to kind of shuffle a little bit and make it work. But certainly training is important, and this will be, the place to train.
Sure. Yeah, that was one of the things that I was most impressed with when I visited twice now, the facility in North Las Vegas. They don't have it done yet, but they have this huge area where they're going to have these stagings, my words, not theirs, of storefronts and homes and so forth. And it's unfathomable to me as a civilian that you would just train somebody on pen and paper in a classroom and talk about a domestic violence situation and not put them because it's my understanding that that's one of the worst scenarios that law enforcement can come upon. And to not have something in a controlled environment where they could experience that before it's real, just blows my mind that we would even think of doing that. So to have these facilities to be able to train in a somewhat real world environment just makes perfect sense. Having mentioned North Las Vegas, and you've seen their facility, I know
they came to us and asked us for some help. So I have to take a little bit of, not credit, but we did consult with them a little bit when they were beginning their project. And
I was gonna say, how toot your own horn. How is yours better than theirs?
They are really. We built really an academy and training facility all in one. What they seem to be building is just the kind of scenario-based training complex. Ours is really, like I said, a full academy intel center, and then the training complex, kind of all built in one. Whereas I think they do their academy training somewhere different, and then they go there for the actual like real life scenario training. So I think that's one of the different aspects of what our entire facility incorporates compared to theirs. But again, they're doing something, like I said, very similar. It's obviously has to be all indoors because of the elements of being in Las Vegas and the heat, whereas ours will be really an outdoor facility, but that's just obviously because of where they are. But one of the individuals who helped design it, we're very familiar with, and a lot of the concepts they're using are similar to the concepts that we have in our new facility in the training village.
Plus,
still
they're probably not as landlocked as you are. They got tons and tons of desert land to build on.
We didn't have all the space that we possibly could have to build this. So we did have spatial constraints on the site, but I think it's still 2 acres, 3 acres of land that we're going to be able to build. And we have 3 different types of homes, the 3 different types of homes you'd find on Long Island. We have a real train track elevated with a real Long Island Railroad train. You can do platform training with our MTA police. We have a police station. We have a restaurant, bar. We have a bank that can convert into a pharmacy. We have a house of worship. So we pretty much cover all the bases of anything that in a school, a 1-floor school. So pretty much anything that you can kind of envision having to go into, which the house of worship can also convert to a courthouse. So we're trying to make it very, malleable to whatever we are going to have to do, but, about 3 acres of land. So you can do, a decent amount of training there, and plus the roads and whatnot, but
sure.
It'll look very cool when it's completed.
Yeah, as a civilian that supports first responders, the one thing that you mentioned and Captain Rader mentioned as well in North Las Vegas is I really can appreciate the idea of bringing multiple organizations, departments together to train. Because number one, as Captain Rader mentioned, that was one of the pluses in that horrific shooting that happened in Las Vegas, is they were very good at communicating with different departments and knowing their skills, their pluses, their minuses, and being able to handle that event, to be able to train that way too, when you actually have an unfortunate event. At least these other departments, what the firefighters are going to do, what the ambulance is going to do, so on and so forth. I'm speaking as a layperson, but you understand how you're going to be able to work with these other departments ahead of time. And I think that makes a ton of sense, and I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's obviously critical for us, being that we are adjacent to New York City, and there are several law enforcement agencies that kind of overlap. Not only do we have, the MTA police that operate within our jurisdiction, we have several villages that operate within Nassau County as well. We train those officers, obviously, the NYPD and Suffolk Department we share borders with. Coast Guard, we have a lot of waterfront. We work very closely with the Coast Guard. So the relationships that we already have are great, and the training we already do together is great, but this will kind of enhance that trifold, to be able to have an environment where we can bring everybody in and do real life scenarios. And again, that kind of thing is kind of done in a smaller basis with some of our hospital systems, but it's different to kind of set up a scenario in a big building than to actually recreate it in a real life environment. And I think obviously it brings everything to a whole nother level.
Yeah, especially with those Coast Guard guys. I need to get one of those people on the show, because they're badass. They're doing everything: helicopters, water, hurricanes.
Divers, we do a lot of Coast Guard. They come with a lot of really cool resources and for our project, so we like that.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about the feedback that you're hearing from your law enforcement, from visitors, from the community, about this facility. Is it all good, or somebody say, hey, could you maybe change this? We need like 5 more urinals, whatever the hell it is. What's the feedback you're getting?
You never make everybody happy. That's what I think. There's always somebody who doesn't like the view of their office, or there's too many windows, there's not enough windows. but you know what? That just comes with the territory. And I did ask the gentleman from Las Vegas when I was there. I said, "What are your complaints? You know, air conditioning and the same complaints that we have. You know, automatic lights that are now the standard of new buildings. You know,
Right.
everyone because the lights go on and off depending on But listen, ultimately I tell them, and they understand they're in the nicest building the police department nicest building in the county, and probably will be the nicest building in the county for a very long time. So everybody is very thrilled to be there, and the community response I get is just tremendous. People are like, "Oh my God, I didn't know this existed," or "I didn't know this was being built," or "I can't believe how incredible it is."
Yeah.
It is, really the design of it was really spectacular, and our architects did a fantastic job of just really making it a showpiece of the police department. And it sits along one of the major roadways in the county, so people see it as they pass, and it's just tremendous. So we've gotten an incredible amount of positive feedback, and once the auditorium is done in the next couple weeks, and we can do more with the community in that space, it will be the only auditorium that the county owns itself. So it will be utilized, I think, 24/7, just because, and it has a pull down mechanical wall separating it into two separate 200 and change auditorium spaces. So you can do two different trainings in there at one time, or two different classroom spaces. So it was a very expensive space in itself for that reason, but well worth it in the sense that, now the county has this facility to be able to use, and community members have this facility they can use.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome story. I'm going to have to get out there to visit it.
Please come visit.
How, as we wrap up here, how are you going to top that? Build a bigger training facility? Are you just going to ride off into the sunset and do another job? How do you top this?
Well, right now we're actually rebuilding our tiny town, which is a training facility for kids. So we are just finishing that project. So much smaller scale, obviously, in size and cost, about $100,000 project. Nassau County had this safety town that was built in 1970 with little houses and a little post office, and kids who are in third grade from all over the county come, and they are taught traffic safety, how to properly cross a crosswalk, how to stop at a train track, which Nassau County has a lot of those, how to cross a street, where to go, watch the light. So this was like every child in Nassau County's favorite, field trip growing up, because it was so cool. You get to drive a little automatic car, a bumper car around. But again, it was built in 1970. It had completely fallen apart. And part of our, fundraising and training is we said, listen, we really need to bring this up to the 21st century as well. So they completely renovated and refurbished that site. And we were going to be opening it up in, I think June 13th, we're going to be opening it up. So we have, now refurbished another training facility, and this one is for youth. And again, the youth police engagement. So that's really neat. And like I said, a much smaller scale training facility, but still training facility. So
exactly. I was born just before 1970, and I'm half broken down, so I can only imagine what Safety Town looks like from 1970.
I opened up some of those little buildings, and it was not good. But
yeah. Well, thank you so much for the time. Great story. Love what you're doing out there, Allie. For any department that might want to utilize or train at this training facility with your police department, maybe rent out the facility for proper reasons, no bachelor parties or anything like that, but possibly some firefighter training or something in the auditorium. If they wanted to utilize that and rent it or anything like that, how best can they do that? Either contact you or contact the facility.
Yep, absolutely. Reach out to me. We're happy to give tours and meet with any departments and talk about training. I can be reached at Alexandra, ALEXANDRA at ncpdfoundation.org, or 516-220-3428 is my cell. Feel free to reach out to me. And again, like other departments around the country, a lot of fellow foundation members have reached out to me about, training facilities and our plans. We're happy to share, and I'm happy to share all of our pitfalls and our glory of this building and how we did it and what you should do or plans, etc. So feel free to reach out for that.
Yeah, thank you. And since it's a 24/7 facility, feel free to call Allie 24/7 since she gave
I
out
do
the cell
answer
phone.
24/7.
Allie, thank you for the time, and more important, thank you for the great work that you're doing out there.
Thanks, Ken. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. And thank you to all of you who have either watched or listened to this episode of Public Safety Talk Radio. And we'll be back with you next week with another great guest. Public Safety Talk Radio was produced by the POCUA. The POCUA is a consortium of financial institutions serving law enforcement as well as other first responders and public safety professionals. To learn more about our association and to find one of our credit unions or service providers near you, go to www.policecreditunions.com. And always remember, if you aren't working with one of our POCUA credit unions, you're just banking with an institution that just so happens to serve first responders. As a public safety professional, you and your family deserve better. Find a POCUA credit union today.